good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I am asking the question, can quad registeel actually work? You see, this was brought to my attention. The lovely Tour de Reklev, he is the only person who's won 3 international championships in the trading card game in Masters. He is, I believe, strongly the best player in the world, and I think he's proven that. He came 9th at the Brazilian, or the Latin American International Championships this weekend. He played Granbull, and I love him for this. And in Swiss, he achieved a record of 6 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws. Got him into day 2. Very good record. Here's the thing, though. His 1 loss was to quad Registeel Dhelmise. And that got me thinking, hang on a second. Firstly, I love Dhelmise as a Pokemon. Still trying to get my VG friends to admit it will work. Still failing massively. And I love Registeel. Registeel's my boy. I was so high on this when it came out. Go back and check my videos from around then, ladies and gentlemen. I talk a lot about my love for Registeel. I think it's brilliant. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, so the best player in the world lost at an international championships to quad Registeel Dhelmise, my brain starts going to, wait, is that actually a viable deck? Because the first thing to remember here is that actually he beat Granbull. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, if you were going to design a deck which was 100% focused on beating Granbull, it would probably be Registeel Dhelmise. I mean, we'll get to it a little bit more in a moment, but Registeel saw a lot of love to try and take down Gardevoir when it initially came out. One of the decks that did really well at the International Championships in London, when Gardevoir was this big deck that was everywhere and everyone was scared of it, were metal decks that were based largely around Silvally and Celesteela and all of that, but also played a hefty amount of Registeel. Because, right, we've got Snubbull at the moment. Now, to be fair, Snubbull does have 70 HP. But also, to be fair, you got Dhelmise. So Registeel does 30 damage for a single energy. And you get to attach an energy to one of your benched Pokemon. And you've then got Dhelmise that lets you do an extra 10 damage for your attacks. So if we go against Snubbull here, you do 30 damage. Oh no, wait, sorry, it's 40 damage. Because you've got Dhelmise. Snubbull is a fairy Pokemon, ergo Snubbull is weak to metal. And Bob's your uncle, you get an easy 1-hit KO. So the second you come up against a Snubbull, ladies and gentlemen, Snubbull is going down. But even if you come up against Granbull, it's not going to take very long to get rid of this. Granbull's got 130 HP. Which means if you want to get a 1-hit KO with weakness, you need to do 70 damage. Well, the great news here is that Registeel does 30, as we previously mentioned. For Dhelmise, the most you can play in your deck will mean that you're actually now doing 70 and you're getting a 1-hit KO on Granbull. Now, sure, there's going to be some games where you run out of Dhelmise, and if you do, ladies and gentlemen, you do. But if you play a few Rescue Stretcher here, you're going to be fine. And then, of course, Nest Ball is great for searching it out. And it is so difficult for Granbull to beat Registeel. It's not entirely impossible, but it's near impossible for Granbull to beat Registeel. Because, you see, Registeel gets a 1-hit KO for 1 energy as long as you've got 4 Dhelmise on the bench. And admittedly, Granbull then does get a 1-hit KO on a Registeel as long as you've got 0 cards in hand. Well, as anyone that's played a lot of Granbull will know, there are some turns it's just not possible. You get a janky combination of hands, you draw a Nest Ball with a full bench, etc., and you just cannot get your hand down to 0. Registeel just needs 4 Dhelmise on the bench. So just make sure you play a few Rescue Stretcher. And the thing is here, your opponent is probably not going after Dhelmise anyway. They've got to go after Registeel. Because otherwise you've got your attacker with your energy, and if they don't take out Registeel, you can start building up to its bigger attack, which does 90 for free energy and easily one-hit KOs. So you're going to keep your Dhelmise on the bench, and as long as you can just keep getting Registeel and an energy, you're fine. The other thing to remember is that Granbull's a stage 1, Registeel's a basic, and this all basically adds up to Registeel is going to get the first KO. If you go first, then you get 2 turns before your opponent's gone and they're not going to be able to attack because they're a stage 1. If you go second, you can just get a turn 1 KO probably on a snubble. So the fact of the matter here is you're going to get the first KO and you're both KOing each other for 1 energy, except you've probably got the easier condition to meet and you're a basic, not a stage 1. Registeel will smash Granbull. Here's the thing though, this deck started 3-0. How did this deck start 3-0? And the reason is super simple. It played 2 Gardevoir rounds 1 and 2. And if you want to build a deck which smashes Gardevoir, Registeel Dhelmise is a great way to do so. Because you see, with Registeel here, you're playing 1 energy on. So Gardevoir is actually going to need 4 energy on a stage 2 to get a 1-hit KO on Registeel. 4 energy on a stage 2 to get a 1-hit KO on your single prize Registeel. Now, your Turbo Arm does 30 while accelerating energy, plus 4 Dhelmise is 70, plus Choice Band is 100, and you're only actually doing 200. So you're comfortably 2-hit KOing for 2 prizes, so even if Gardevoir's 1-hit KOing, you're still winning that trade, although a lot of the time they're not going to be 1-hit KOing because they need 4 energy to KO you, because if they've got 3, that's 4 energy total, they only do 120. So that's a little bit of a problem. And then, of course, you're playing Shrine of Punishment. Shrine of Punishment puts 1 damage counter on each Pokemon EX and GX between turns, and as long as this is down for a turn or 2, you actually will essentially be 1-hit KOing Gardevoir, at least with 1 attack. But let's not forget the second attack, Iron Hand, 90 damage, so 3 Dhelmise and you get a 1-hit KO, or a Choice Band and you get a 1-hit KO. And let's remember that when you attack with Dhelmise, you attach a metal energy, actually any basic energy, but in this deck it'll be a metal, from your discard to one of your benched Pokemon. So it's not like you've got to manually attach free energy to Registeel. Once you attack with 2 Registeel, your third Registeel will have free energy on them. Gardevoir cannot stand up to quad Registeel Dhelmise. It just can't. Neither can Granbull. So essentially here, if you face Gardevoir, Granbull, you're starting that tournament 3-0. Unless you have like the worst luck any person has ever had in a Pokemon tournament ever. And it's best 2 out of 3, so it would have to be some horrendous luck. The thing is, you then are left with this question, well, okay, clearly if you're hitting for weakness, this deck is phenomenal. And similarly, Sylveon GX will be smashed by this. This will be hilariously good against Sylveon GX. Sylveon GX will have nothing against this. Oh, yeah, please try and get rid of my energy with your Crushing Hammer while I'm 1-hit KOing you for a single energy anyway. Because actually the thing to remember here, Sylveon's got 200 HP, so 4 Dhelmise and a Choice Band, you're getting a 1-hit KO for 1 energy. And you're 1-hit KOing EVs as long as you've got 3 Dhelmise on the bench. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, you're fine. I should also have mentioned with Gardevoir, just in case you didn't think the match was lopsided enough, you do get a 1-hit KO on a route with no extra damage. So, frankly, you're going to get the first KO as well as being massively faster at it. It's just, you're smashing Gardevoir. You're just smashing them. But what about other decks? One of the cards that this deck did play over the weekend was Sudowoodo. Now this is the Roadblock Sudowoodo, which means your opponent can only have 4 bench Pokemon. And the reason they played this was because of Zoroark. Zoroark, for a double colorless energy, does 20 damage for each Pokemon that player has in play. So with a Sudowoodo out, they can only have 4 bench Pokemon, they can only do 100 damage, they cannot get a 1-hit KO. Now, technically they can. They can use Devoured Field to do an extra 10 damage, and then they can use a Professor Kukui to go up to 130. But generally speaking, Zoroark decks are playing one or the other, because there's plenty of 130 HP Pokemon running around at the moment, like Shining Lugia, like the non-GX Buzzwole. So you need a way to get Zoroark from 120 to 130, either Devoured Field or Professor Kukui will be fine here, but you need to play one of them. You're not playing both. So this gives you a bit more survivability. And you can trade 2 for 1 against Zoroark. So essentially, if you've got 4 Dhelmise on the bench, and you've got a choice band, you're hitting 100. No weakness here, just 100. And Zoroark's got 210, so you've got Shrine of Punishment. So as long as you can have a Shrine of Punishment down, you can 2-hit KO Zoroark. It's doable, just so long as your opponent is not playing any Ace Roller or any Max Potion. If your opponent's playing Ace Roller or Max Potion, you're no longer 2-hit KOing, you're at least 3-hit KOing. If they're playing Devoured Field or Professor Kukui, then they are 1-hit KOing, and then you're running into issues. And this is essentially where Registeel falls down, why it didn't make Day 2, and why I believe it's not the most viable of decks. Believe me, I want it to be viable. I am desperate for this deck to be viable. I just don't actually think it is. Because the problem we run into here is that you're 2-hit KOing stuff, mostly. And then your opponent can be 1-hit KOing. And they can be doing a little bit of healing. And the problem is, if you're 2-hit KOing, you're going to need 6 Registeel. Which means you're going to constantly need to be reusing them with stuff like Rescue Stretcher. And you're constantly being forced to recycle your resources, but because you're 2-hit KOing, you're giving your opponent more time. Yes, you're taking 2 prizes in 2 turns against GX decks, and they're taking 2 prizes in 2 turns against you, but then you run into the super awkward position of you are having to rejig your resources every turn, and they are having to rejig their resources every other turn. Then, of course, if you come across non-GX Pokemon, like Dhelmise, for instance, which you might see in a Vikavolt deck, then you do start running into problems fairly quickly. You see, Dhelmise can do 130, and can just keep going every turn because of Vikavolt. Well, you're comfortably 2-hit KOing, so you're just not getting anywhere. They're 1-hit KOing, you're 2-hit KOing. You are great if you're hitting for weakness. You've got a decent chance if you're against a GX deck and you're 2-hit KOing. But if you're 2-hit KOing against a non-GX deck, you're just going to lose. And that's the big issue around this at the moment. I think you can have a good run in a tournament with this deck, but I also think that that is very much dependent on good matchups. And when you're having to rely on good matchups, that's a huge problem. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not buying it completely, but I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section. Please go nuts, but please also remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.